Sometimes, right before a major quantum jump, life feels strange. Not chaotic, not entirely peaceful, but as if something is shifting beneath the surface in a way you can't quite name. The conversations around you feel hollow, like they're happening in another dimension. The routines that once gave you comfort suddenly feel irrelevant, almost foreign. Even your biggest ambitions, the ones you used to chase with relentless energy, feel like they've lost their flavor, their magnetic pull. This can be deeply unsettling because society has conditioned us to believe that progress looks like constant activity, constant movement, constant doing. We've been programmed to equate stillness with stagnation. But here's what the quantum field knows that your logical mind doesn't. This strange quiet you're experiencing isn't emptiness. It's one of the most important signals that your entire reality is about to transform. This isn't stagnation. This isn't apathy. This is recalibration at the deepest level, that if you're feeling this right now, drop a yes. In the comments, let's see how many of you are in this exact space. Let me share something fascinating from quantum mechanics that will completely reframe what you're experiencing. In quantum physics, before a particle shifts to a new energy state, it enters what scientists call a period of uncertainty, a superposition. This is a moment when the particle holds multiple potentials simultaneously, existing in all possible states at once, with none yet collapsed into a single reality. This isn't a pause in the action. This is actually the most dynamic, powerful state imaginable. At this precise stage, every possible outcome exists in the quantum field. And you, right now, are in that exact same state. Think of it as a liminal space, a doorway between timelines where the old version of you is dissolving while the new version is forming in a reality that already exists in the quantum field, waiting for you to step into it. The human mind, obsessed with linear progress and immediate results, struggles to trust this process. It desperately wants to see evidence, measurable results, clear steps. But the quantum field doesn't operate by those limited rules. What you're feeling right now is the systematic dismantling of your old vibrational blueprint. Take a moment to imagine your life as an intricate web of patterns, beliefs, and energetic signatures. For years, maybe decades, those patterns have held you in a specific frequency, which kept you anchored to a particular timeline. But when your higher self decides it's time to evolve, that entire web begins to loosen. Energetic threads start snapping. Old contracts with reality expire. Outdated belief systems begin to dissolve. Because this transformation happens at the vibrational level before it manifests in the physical world, the first thing you notice is the stillness, the emptiness, the mysterious absence of your old drive and motivation. This can feel like something is terribly wrong, when in reality, it's the clearest sign that something is about to go profoundly right. Spiritually, wisdom traditions across the globe describe this phase as the void, but not in a negative sense. Mystics and sages speak of it as the fertile darkness, the primordial space where all creation is seated before it blooms into manifest light. In the void, your soul is literally reorganizing itself to match the reality you've been calling in through your desires, your vision, your elevated emotions. The old tools you use to navigate life may no longer work here because they belong to the identity you're leaving behind. Your job now isn't to panic or force action. Your job is to breathe into the stillness and trust it completely. The silence isn't empty. It's pregnant with quantum information, reorganizing your entire reality in ways your conscious mind cannot yet perceive or understand. Modern science supports this ancient wisdom. Neuroscientific studies on neuroplasticity reveal that the brain actually requires periods of apparent downtime to rewire itself for new patterns of thinking and being. When you're stepping into a new frequency, your entire nervous system is adjusting. Your brain's predictive models are recalibrating, and your body is learning to operate from a completely new energetic baseline. This recalibration phase is absolutely essential because you cannot carry the chaotic frequency of your old timeline into the stability of your new reality. You must release completely before you can receive fully. Think about this. Imagine the moment before a great symphony begins. The concert hall lights dim, the audience grows silent, and the musicians take their positions with focused intention. That silence before the first note isn't wasted time. It's the sacred preparation for something magnificent to emerge. Or consider a bow being drawn before an arrow is released. The tension isn't a delay or obstruction. It's the very force that will propel the arrow to its target with precision and power. Right now, the universe is drawing you back like that bow. Not to hold you down or keep you stuck, but to launch you into a trajectory you could never reach through sheer effort or force alone. Here's the key insight that separates those who successfully make the leap from those who remain stuck. Most people completely misinterpret this phase and unconsciously sabotage their quantum jump. They panic at the stillness. They mistake the void for a problem to be solved. They start desperately scrambling to fill the sacred emptiness with old habits, low-frequency distractions, and frantic activity that pulls them back into their previous timeline. But here's the quantum truth. The more you resist this natural process, the longer you remain suspended between timelines, caught in a liminal space that feels neither here nor there. The individuals who successfully make the leap are those who learn to lean into the quiet, to see it as profound evidence of progress rather than absence of progress. They understand that this strange calm is actually the quantum loading screen for their next chapter. If you can shift your perspective right now, if you can begin to see this unusual stillness as proof that the field is rearranging itself around you, then you'll start to notice the subtle signals that transformation is imminent. Pay attention to these quantum indicators. A random conversation that suddenly sparks a revolutionary insight, an unexpected release of old emotions you've been carrying for years, sudden clarity about something that's confused you for months, people from your past, appearing in your life briefly, then disappearing dreams that feel more vivid and meaningful than usual, a growing sense of detachment from drama and chaos. These aren't coincidences. They are micro-adjustments in your frequency, precisely calibrating you with your new reality. Now let me address something that might be happening to you right now that feels deeply uncomfortable but is actually profoundly positive. One of the most misunderstood aspects of a quantum jump is that it rarely begins with a dramatic burst of energy or an obvious sign from the universe. More often it begins with what I call sacred friction. Not the chaotic kind that throws your life into obvious turmoil, but subtle, disorienting moments where the things that used to fit you no longer feel quite right. Relationships that once felt comfortable now feel constricting, like wearing clothes that have suddenly become too small. Work that once gave you purpose feels hollow, meaningless. Even your inner dialogue starts to sound foreign, as if it's coming from a version of you that no longer exists. This is what I call the frequency mismatch phase, the moment when your soul is accelerating into a higher vibration while parts of your external life are still operating in the old frequency. In quantum terms, this phenomenon is known as decoherence, when two systems, in this case, your inner state and your outer reality, are no longer vibrating in harmony. The tension becomes impossible to ignore. And that tension isn't a mistake or a sign that something's wrong. It's a clear signal that your current reality simply cannot sustain the energetic blueprint of where you're going. Think of it like trying to run advanced software on outdated hardware. The system will lag, glitch, and eventually crash, not because something went wrong, but because an upgrade is urgently required. That upgrade is your quantum jump. Imagine standing with one foot on each of two boats that are drifting in opposite directions. Eventually, you will have to commit fully to one boat. And the boat that matches your true frequency will always feel like relief, even if it requires you to leave the familiar behind. This is where most people get trapped in a frustrating cycle. The mind, deeply uncomfortable with uncertainty, tries desperately to cling to the old reality. It will tell you to fix what's breaking, to smooth over what's falling apart, to restore what's naturally fading away. But in the quantum field, attempting to restore the old reality is literally a step backwards. What feels like breakdown is actually the natural shedding of density old beliefs, limiting patterns, and outdated identities that simply cannot travel with you to your new timeline. If you rush to patch everything back together, you significantly delay your jump. If you courageously allow the old to dissolve, you dramatically accelerate your transformation. Physics gives us a perfect metaphor here. When an electron jumps to a higher orbital, it must absorb a precise, specific amount of energy, no more, no less. Once it reaches that exact threshold, it instantly, effortlessly transitions to the new state. There's no in-between, no gradual process. Similarly, your quantum jump happens the precise moment your frequency perfectly matches the reality you're moving into. Not when you force it through endless action, not when you push desperately for it, but when you allow the old frequency to fully release so the new one can lock in with mathematical precision. This is why so much doing at this stage becomes counterproductive. The frantic need to fix, prove, or push is a clear sign you're trying to bridge two completely incompatible realities with effort alone. And effort is always a slower, more exhausting mechanism than pure alignment. The quantum field doesn't care how hard you work. It cares how purely you vibrate. A single moment of crystal clear resonance will accomplish more for your shift than weeks of unfocused, desperate action. If you've noticed lately that certain things are naturally falling away from your life, friendships, opportunities, even aspects of your personality that you've identified with for years, try this transformational approach. Instead of automatically asking, how do I get them back, or what did I do wrong, ask this instead. What is this dissolution making space for that single shift in questioning changes your entire frequency from resistance to receptivity? In the quantum field, resistance acts like static interference. It scrambles your signal and delays your manifestation. Receptivity, on the other hand, is like a direct, clear channel that calls in exactly the timeline that's already perfectly tuned to your deepest desires. And here's the beautiful paradox that governs this entire process. The more you try to rush this stage, the longer it actually lasts. Think of it as a necessary decompression chamber between who you were and who you're becoming. In scuba diving, if you ascend too rapidly from great depths, you develop a dangerous condition called the bends, because your body cannot adjust to the sudden change in pressure. Spiritually, exactly the same principle applies. If you try to leap into your new reality without properly integrating the energetic changes, your entire system will automatically pull you back to restabilize, forcing you to repeat the process. This is precisely why patience, trust, and presence aren't passive states. They are active, powerful components of your quantum jump. Right before a quantum jump, you might notice that your emotional world feels dramatically amplified, as if someone turned the volume up on every feeling you experience. One moment you're buzzing with excitement, absolutely certain that something extraordinary is about to happen. The next moment, doubt seeps in like fog, whispering that maybe you're imagining it all. Maybe you're deluding yourself. This isn't emotional instability or inconsistency. This is the precise emotional signature of a consciousness in transition. Your brain operates on what neuroscientists call predictive coding. It constantly runs mental simulations of what it expects to happen based on your historical patterns, even as your higher self is magnetically pulling you toward a new reality. Your subconscious mind is still desperately clinging to the old blueprint, trying to run the outdated program because it feels safer and more predictable. In quantum terms, this is superposition in action, that strange, fascinating state where two or more possible realities exist simultaneously. You are literally existing in both timelines. The old one you've been living and the new one you're stepping into. Your emotions become the flicker between these parallel realities. When you feel powerful surges of hope followed immediately by waves of uncertainty, it's not a setback or a sign you're failing. It's clear evidence that your energy is oscillating between states as the quantum field searches for coherence and stability. The stronger the oscillation, the closer you are to what physicists call collapse. The moment when one timeline becomes your only reality. This is why emotional fluctuations before a quantum jump often feel so intensely charged. The stakes feel higher because your inner compass is recalibrating in real time. every belief you've held, every memory you've stored, every attachment you've formed is being scanned by your expanding consciousness. Does this belong in my new reality, or is this an artifact of the old? That process is inherently emotional because emotions are the chemical signals of transformation. They tell your body that you're in completely unfamiliar territory, and your body's primary instinct is always to keep you safe, which often means holding on to what's familiar, even when it's no longer aligned with your growth. The crucial mistake most people make here is interpreting doubt and fear as evidence they're failing or moving backwards. They start thinking, if I was really close to my quantum jump, I wouldn't feel this much resistance or uncertainty. But that's like thinking turbulence means the airplane isn't flying properly. In reality, turbulence simply means you're moving through different layers of atmosphere that require constant adjustment. Your emotions are adjusting to an energetic altitude you've never flown at before. The faster you learn to ride these currents instead of gripping your seat in panic, the smoother your entire journey becomes. Here's a powerful shift in perspective that will change everything. Instead of labeling your emotions as good or bad, begin to see them as pure energy signatures moving through your field. Joy, excitement, fear, uncertainty. They are all simply currents of energy providing you with information about where your focus is in this moment. If you react to them as obstacles, you reinforce the oscillation and extend the transition period. If you observe them as neutral indicators, you begin to stabilize your signal toward the reality you actually want to experience. From a Kai spiritual perspective, this emotional amplification is a form of initiation. The universe is essentially asking, can you hold your frequency steady even while the winds of change are swirling around you? Because the timeline you're stepping into will inevitably bring new experiences, fresh challenges, and beautiful unknowns. Your capacity to remain emotionally coherent now is precisely what prepares you to thrive in your elevated reality later. One practice that dramatically accelerates this stabilization is what I call conscious neutrality. When the excitement peaks, don't cling to it as the only sign you're on track. When doubt arises, don't treat it as a warning to abandon your vision. Instead, breathe deeply into both states, knowing they are temporary fluctuations within a much larger, more stable trajectory. Imagine yourself as the eye of a hurricane, perfectly still and centered, watching the weather shift around you without being carried away by any of it. This level of emotional mastery is the unmistakable hallmark of someone who is moments away from collapsing into their chosen reality. Most people imagine the final test before a quantum leap, as if the universe were a stern teacher standing at the front of the classroom with a red pen, waiting to mark their paper pass or fail. But the truth is far more intimate and infinitely more empowering. This isn't the universe deciding whether you're worthy of your dreams. This is your own subconscious mind running its final diagnostic, systematically surfacing the last fragments of your old identity so you can make a conscious choice to release them forever. You might suddenly find yourself facing the exact same types of challenges you thought you'd already transcended and outgrown. A conversation that pushes your buttons in precisely the same way an old relationship used to. A money situation that triggers the identical scarcity panic you felt years ago. A wave of self-doubt that sounds eerily familiar, like a song you haven't heard in years suddenly playing on the radio. These moments aren't punishments or signs you're moving backward. They are mirrors, reflecting back the frequency you used to inhabit so you can decide once and for all whether you still want to live there. From a neuroscience perspective, your brain is fundamentally wired for efficiency. It will always reach for the most well-worn neural pathways first, the familiar responses, automatic beliefs, and unconscious behaviors you've rehearsed for years or decades. When you're standing on the brink of a quantum jump, those old neural patterns are still firing, desperately hoping you'll give them one final confirmation so they can remain in place and keep you in familiar territory. The only way to permanently rewire these patterns isn't through force or willpower, but through demonstration, actually behaving as the new version of yourself, especially when the old triggers are staring you directly in the face. Every single time you choose the higher frequency response, you weaken the old neural pathway and strengthen the new one. In quantum language, this is the collapse of an old probability wave. Until you make a new choice, both versions of you, the one who reacts from past conditioning and the one who responds from conscious alignment, exist simultaneously in superposition. The moment you act in a way that aligns with your chosen timeline, you collapse the reality of your old self, and the new version becomes the only active signal you're broadcasting into the quantum field. This is why the challenges that arise right before a major shift feel so electrically charged and significant. They represent the final superposition between who you were and who you are becoming. Spiritually, this stage is less of a test and more of a ceremonial crossing. It's the moment you stand at the threshold of your new reality, holding the energetic key. And the only thing required to open that door is to respond consistently from the frequency you've been cultivating. If you meet scarcity thoughts with genuine gratitude, anger with compassionate understanding, and doubt with unwavering presence, you're not just symbolically ready for your new timeline, you're vibrationally locked into it. The quantum field doesn't need to approve you or grant you permission. It simply mirrors exactly who you are being in each moment. And in this crucial moment, your being is everything. The danger here is misinterpretation. Many people see these resurfacing challenges as proof they're sliding backward or that their spiritual work isn't working. They think, if I'm still attracting this situation, I must be failing. But the reality is precisely the opposite. The very appearance of these scenarios means you shifted enough for them to be flushed out of your energetic field. You can't clear what you haven't yet outgrown. The fact that you're now consciously aware of these patterns and that you're asking yourself how to respond differently is the strongest possible signal that you're almost at the finish line. Think of it like a flight simulator. Pilots train extensively in controlled turbulence so that when it happens in real life, they already know exactly how to stabilize the aircraft. These final test moments before your quantum jump or your simulator runs. They give you the opportunity to embody your new state under conditions that would have once completely knocked you off balance. Pass this test, meaning respond consistently from your upgraded frequency, and you're not just imagining your new reality. You're living it in real time. Here's something nobody tells you about the actual moment of a quantum jump. It rarely arrives with fanfare or obvious drama. In movies, transformation moments are cinematic fireworks, swelling orchestral music, a before and after so stark you couldn't possibly miss it. But in authentic quantum reality, the leap often arrives with remarkable quietness. One day you simply wake up and notice that the fear you used to carry isn't there anymore. The problem you obsessed over for months somehow feels completely irrelevant. A conversation that would have triggered intense emotions last month now leaves you perfectly calm and unmoved. The shift doesn't announce itself with trumpets. It just becomes who you are now. And because this new state feels so natural and organic, your logical mind may even try to downplay it, questioning, was that it? Did anything really change? This is where understanding the true nature of quantum transformation becomes crucial. In physics, when an electron jumps to a higher energy level, it happens instantaneously. There's no gradual climb, no visible struggle or effort. One moment it occupies one orbital, the next moment it's in a completely different one. That's exactly how you shift timelines. The arrival isn't about dramatic external fireworks, it's about internal resonance. The old frequency drops away so completely that it becomes difficult to remember why it ever felt like home. From a neurological perspective, this is the integration phase. Your brain has stopped firing the old neural circuits and has begun solidifying the new ones as your default setting. You no longer have to consciously try to think differently or force yourself to feel better. It's simply become your natural state. This is precisely why so many people miss the actual moment of their quantum leap. It feels as natural as breathing, and that's exactly the point. The version of you who lives in your new reality doesn't experience it as a breakthrough or achievement. To them, it's simply normal life. Spiritually, This quiet arrival is actually the most powerful confirmation you can receive. It's the universe's way of communicating that you've matched the new frequency so completely there's nothing left to manifest or achieve. You're simply living it now. There's a profound peace in this stage, a deep sense that you've stopped chasing external validation and started inhabiting your true power. And paradoxically, it's often when you stop frantically looking for signs of progress that you begin noticing them everywhere. Unexpected opportunities appearing out of nowhere, exactly the right people crossing your path at precisely the right moment. Synchronicity stacking up like breadcrumbs leading you forward into ever greater expansion. The temptation here is to second-guess the quietness, to return to over-analyzing, over-visualizing, or over-efforting because you think manifestation always has to feel dramatic and obvious. But here's the truth. Drama and struggle belong to the old timeline. Your new reality is about flow, ease, and natural unfolding. Just because the jump felt quiet doesn't mean it was small or insignificant. In fact, the quietest shifts are often the most permanent, because they happen at the identity level, not just in your external circumstances, but in the very core of who you are being. This is the moment to lean fully into embodiment. Instead of asking, did it work? Am I really different? Start asking, how do I live fully as this evolved version of myself? What does my daily life look like now? Every choice you make from this point forward reinforces the reality you've jumped into. Every action becomes an expression of alignment, rather than a desperate attempt to create change from lack. And that's when the quantum field responds with even greater coherence, weaving new possibilities and opportunities into your life without any forced effort on your part. Here's the truth that I want to land deeply in your consciousness. If you've stayed with me through this entire journey today, it's not random. You're hearing this message because you've already been resonating with a higher timeline. You've already been tuning into the frequency of the version of you that has everything you've been asking for. This conversation isn't about getting there anymore. You are there. Now, it's about stabilizing, integrating, and expanding from this new foundation. In quantum terms, the leap you've made or are in the process of making is only the beginning. The quantum field responds most powerfully not to desperate desire, but to coherent alignment. And you've just proven to yourself that you can hold that coherence long enough to collapse an entirely new reality into your experience. The next step is to make this elevated frequency your permanent home address. That means no more slipping back into old patterns when life gets quiet or challenging. It means no more testing the universe to see if your manifestation abilities are still working. It's about anchoring yourself so deeply in this new identity that it becomes absolutely unshakable. Remember this, you're not here to force your life into a specific shape through struggle and effort. You're here to align with the reality that already holds everything you've ever wanted, and then watch it unfold with a naturalness that feels almost effortless. That's the true beauty of living in conscious harmony with the quantum field. Before we close today's transmission, I want you to take a specific action that will anchor this new understanding directly into the quantum field. First, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because at Quantum Core, we're not just discussing theory. We're actively participating in the elevation of human consciousness, one mind at a time. When you subscribe, you're telling the algorithm and the universe that you're ready for consistent, high-frequency content that matches your expanding awareness. Second, in the comments below, type, I am coherent. This isn't just engagement, it's a quantum declaration. You're programming your subconscious mind and sending a clear signal to the field that you've integrated today's transmission and you're operating from your new frequency. Third, share this video with someone who's ready for their breakthrough. The quantum field amplifies when we share high-frequency information. Your share could be the exact catalyst someone needs to recognize their own transformation process. Finally, if you're ready to go deeper and work with me directly to accelerate your quantum mastery, check out my private coaching program linked in the description. This is where we dive into your specific blocks, calibrate your personal frequency, and design a custom roadmap for your next level of reality. The quantum field is always responding to the version of you that you're being right now. Make sure that version is aligned with where you want to go. I'll see you in the next transmission. Until then, stay coherent, stay present, and trust the quiet power of the leap you've already taken. This is Quantum Corey, and remember, your new reality is not waiting for permission. It's waiting for you to step fully into who you've always been.